Yeah, and I always got to be careful because I don't want to scare people off because this is a journey that you want to encourage people to go on, right?
That's right.
But at the same time, everything we do is all about starting small, learning as quickly as you can, failing fast if you need to, and growing into that context, learning that context in real time. So an example would be, hey, I'm a process engineer. These are the kind of people we try and help companies find inside their organization. Hey, I'm a process engineer. On my evenings and weekends, I've taught myself Python. I'm doing basic data science for the sake of my day job. But the way in which they do that, if you watch someone like a process engineer who's doing it for the sake of improving their day job versus going big bang, I'm going to go to the cloud, it's very incremental. It's very domain expertise heavy, and it's relying on real world context. So, hey, I've created an algorithm that I think predicts remaining useful life of a particular machine. If that machine does fail, can I actually go and see in the physical world, in the real world, what happened? And does it align with the failure mode I expected to see in my algorithm? They're the sort of stories we like to tell companies about what data science and big data and AI actually looks like, right? You want to get dirt under your fingernails. You want to be in with the machine. You want to be starting small. You want to be learning with the machine, learning with the domain experts. And then you can start to grow into something much, much bigger. And that story typically resonates well with our customers.
That is huge. Do you have a name for that type of person? Because I feel like all companies should be trying to find those folks within their organization, because in my experience, they have been the most valuable to rolling out AI products and services. As I went into these companies, I always try to find those folks, as you mentioned, that know the factory floor, that know the process, that know the machines, but also know a little bit about Python, know a little bit about MATLAB, and they just seem to be a wealth of knowledge. One, do you have a name for that type of individual? And B, how do you go about finding them?
Yeah, I think you got to be talking. You've got to be whatever way you manage talent in your organization today, right? You've got to have a way to find your rock stars, those guys that are in a role, they're solid. They may not be constantly climbing the ladder, but they do an excellent job in the position they're in. So whatever way you manage talent today, whether there is a HR manager that you can go to and talk about, okay, who are the high performers? Who are the rock stars that every year continually just output a level of work that's above and beyond what we expect, right? And then you've got to find them inside the right departments. And it is typically reliability engineering, process engineering, process design, all those departments. And just by the very nature of what's happened in industry, the very nature of why we're on this live stream, those rock stars will have found the tools. They will have started to adopt, like you said, even just basic MATLAB functionality to help them do their jobs. And I think it's just working with your talent team to figure out who those rock stars are.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Luke. And I think if you're a rock star and you're watching this stream or the video, you have to also raise your hand and say, hey, I know this space, I'm an expert, but I also know about data, coding, and I have an interest in Python and learning more. You have to raise your hand to those folks within your company that are leading innovation. So there's oftentimes like a digital officer, or there's an innovation leader that has some projects. You got to get on their radar. And also that innovation leader has to come to you for ideas and develop that relationship as well.
Exactly. And please, if you are watching and you are that rock star, don't lead with the technology, lead with the outcome. What have you done from an outcome perspective? And that's an overused word, but basically what that means is, how has this helped you do your job? If you lead with MATLAB, Python, MapR, Kafka, whatever technology buzzword, you're just going to sound the same as every other consultant and every other vendor that particular leader is talking to. But if you go and say, don't worry about the tech, but in my job, by leveraging newer technology, I've been able to predict A, B, C, or D, and this had this impact with these customers, that'll get their attention. Unfortunately, most leaders, most people that are responsible for the digital transformation program or the AI program or the big data program, they're just inundated with technology and buzzwords, and they cannot see the wood for the trees.
Right.
So you've got to find a way to cut through that noise and show the outcome.
Yeah, that's a good point. You have to tie your technology, your data to something that the business cares about, because that digital officer also has to sell it to the board and to other leaders and has to get funding for those programs. And they have to convey that in the same way. They can't be leading with Python or big data. They have to they have to frame it in how it's going to impact financial metrics for the business in a way that's understandable by a CEO and a COO.
Yeah. We had one customer. He was responsible for the whole enchilada, for the digital transformation of a multi-billion-dollar division, and he kept going to the board with huge architectures, with all the buzzwords you mentioned, saying we're going to be a digitally enabled enterprise. We're going to have the best-in-class technology at every layer in our stack. Da 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 da. And the board kept saying, "So
why?" You're right.
Yeah, why? And that's the pushback, and thankfully that's the pushback we're getting. I think 2016, 2017, when the heady days of digital transformation, I think unfortunately the board would have said, okay, here is money. Thankfully that's changed. Thankfully we're over the initial sort of early adopter hype phase of digital transformation and big data, and boards are pushing back and saying, no, what's this actually going to do for my business? And hopefully it can be about more than just saving money, which is kind of cool. My passion is, if we're using this technology correctly, we can actually generate revenue, create new value, right? And that's transformation with a capital T.
I think there's a lot to talk about there in terms of, do we try to save money with this technology, or do we position ourselves to create new revenue streams or to bolster our competitive positioning in the marketplace? So I definitely want to come back to that. Before we do, can you talk about how companies can go about getting these Rockstar, we'll call them Rockstars, that's Rockstar data folks, and how do we train them up, and how do we elevate them and get them more education and training? I say that because what I found is that a lot of these companies also have a hard time attracting data science talent and data engineering talent. And what I've seen some of the more successful companies do is they've actually been able to fill that need with engineers that can become data scientists. So people that studied mechanical engineering, and then you have them do some courses, and now they know Python, and then they become sort of some of your first data scientists. And I like that because you're training your people for a new skill set that's going to be important for the company, and it's super valuable for them. And you have really good subject matter expertise in that first team of data scientists that is absolutely critical for your data science function being successful. So I'm wondering if you've seen that in your experience, either with data science or other technical professions, where like you can't go out and get the talent, but maybe you can foster that talent within your organization. I'm wondering if you have any examples of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it. And the mantra that I use and I teach companies is, data science is a mindset, not a qualification, right? It's all about that mindset. You know that. You know the people you work with.
Yep.
Data science is a relatively new discipline. The methodologies we use, the approach we take, is an engineering approach, and that's been around for a very, very long time. And people have been using statistical analysis, basic algorithms in their day jobs for years. So it's all about defining that mindset. What is the mindset of a... Sorry.
No worries.
We're definitely live when my
definitely
phone...
live, folks.
Yeah. You think I would have silenced that? Oh well, rookie mistake. So it's all about that mindset, and can you define that mindset and then go find those people? And when you do find those people, this is literally the conversation I had with one of these rock stars. We were sitting in an office. We were in Taiwan at the time. It was myself, one of these rock stars and the VP that was overseeing the whole enchilada, the whole transformation of this business. I basically said to this guy, and this is a trick, don't go to them with, here's how we're going to do digital transformation. Here's how we're going to define our architecture. You know, you need to start learning Kafka, or you need to start learning X, Y, or Z. The conversation was, we want to take to market. This is what we're doing with this particular person. We want to take to market the success that you've had. That is transformational for this business. And you just tell us what you need. And if it's people or money, you quite literally have a blank check, right? And if you think about going out and hiring, this is what I was talking to the VP about ahead of time, before we made that kind of a promise to someone with a blank check. If you were to go out and hire that particular person with a data science qualification, a data science title, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire that person. Let alone if you were to go and start purchasing some of the software they'd probably need to get going. We have someone doing it almost for free, right? In the balance of cash in the company, almost doing it for free. They're doing it for you they're almost in their spare time. There is nothing they're going to ask for that is too expensive or going to scare you in terms of a check. And in the end, the chap needed a $3,000 MATLAB license to take it to the next phase, right? And the reason we were all in Taiwan at the time, we were meeting with a customer to literally sell the output of the algorithm he had built the previous year using duct tape and baling wire. So it's going having those conversations with these people and just saying, what do you need, right? And we got him more people. We elevated him from, kind of made it official that he was basically the head of the data science team. And we haven't finished that project, but I've stayed in touch and I've watched the guy go from strength to strength. He's now a people leader. He's got his team. He's driving data science. And it was all about just recognizing that mindset from day one.
No, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I just think there's so much opportunity for these folks. Everybody wins. The Rockstar wins. The company wins. And I really like early data scientist leaders that know the space, because that's something you can't replace. I can teach someone Python and R and all, the big data technologies, but to replicate 10 years of being a process engineer or mechanical engineer and knowing a space and a factory line, like that's much harder to teach. So I think for companies, as think about that, what's easy for me to augment a motivated individual with and what's not. And I think you'll find your story really resonates there.